did in Iceland.
What he did was ill-disciplined, utterly reckless. Give me one good reason to put him in the program, Mom.
I think you just covered them all. It's really quite simple. Bond is a bullet without a target. Let's give him one.
This is a black tag operation, so discretion, ladies and gentlemen, is critical.
Most Bond games have tried to put you inside the icon, the tuxedo, the martini, the unshakable confidence of a man who has already figured out exactly who he is. 007 First Light is not interested in any of that. IO Interactive spent 6 years building a Bond game that starts before all of it. Before the tuxedo, before the license, before he became someone who knows how to walk into a room and own it. This Bond is 26, reckless, lucky, in ways that have nothing to do with skill. And the whole game is about watching him become the person we have always known he was going to be. Here is everything you need to know about 007 First Light. The studio behind this game is IO Interactive, the Danish developer who spent the better part of a decade making the Hitman series into one of the most creative stealth franchises in gaming. In November 2020, they announced Project 007 with a brief teaser and almost nothing else. Then they went quiet. For nearly 5 years, very little came out about what they were building. The game was formally revealed in June 2025 at Sony's State of Play with a full trailer and its proper title, 007 First Light. Originally set for March 2026, it was delayed 2 months to May 27th, and based on everything shown since, those 2 months clearly mattered. The art director Rasmus Poulsen described the challenge of the project honestly. Unlike Hitman, where IO had complete creative freedom, 007 First Light required them to respect over 60 years of established Bond history while building something genuinely new inside it. The goal, in Poulsen's words, was timeless. Not nostalgic, timeless. The story IO Interactive built for First Light is a fully original one, completely independent from any Bond film you have ever seen. Lead writer Michael Vogt described this Bond at 26 as someone who has not yet developed the cynical worldview, the refined tastes, the controlled persona that the films have spent decades building into an icon. He has experienced real personal tragedy, losing both his parents, and is stepping into the shadow-filled world of MI6 without fully understanding what it is going to ask of him. The game starts in Iceland, where Bond is on his first proper mission. From there, the story moves through a training mission in Malta, a standout infiltration at a gala in Kensington, London, and a high-stakes sequence in Slovakia. The villain is Baume, described as a man of two extreme and contradictory sides, a violent savage and an eloquent intellectual at once. Someone who wants to build a powerful empire from the ground up and whose fundamental beliefs directly oppose everything Bond represents. Baume is played through motion capture and voice by Lenny Kravitz, announced at the Game Awards in December 2025. Alongside him, his operation includes a character named Pirate King and some notably unfriendly crocodiles, which the reveal trailer made sure nobody missed. Journalists who previewed the game described the tone as sitting somewhere between the Pierce Brosnan and Daniel Craig eras of Bond. Playful enough to feel like the franchise, grounded enough to feel real.
Hold on.
Here is where 007 First Light gets genuinely interesting. IO Interactive brought the same design philosophy that made Hitman one of the most rewatchable franchises in gaming into a Bond-shaped experience. Every mission is a sandbox. The Kensington Gala infiltration was the clearest demonstration of this in the gameplay showcase. You can approach it through conversation and bluffing your way to where you need to be, through stealth and gadgets, through direct confrontation if things go wrong. None of it is forced on you. The mission reacts to however you move through it. The gadget system is expanded well beyond what Hitman offered. Bond has access to tools that open up paths and options unavailable to a player who ignores them. The gameplay footage showed gadgets being used for traversal, for creating distractions, for disabling security systems, and for gaining access to restricted areas in ways that felt genuinely Bond. One of the most discussed design decisions is the license to kill system. In standard gameplay, Bond cannot simply draw a firearm whenever he wants. If he tries, the character refuses. chooses. Guns are a last resort, not a default option. Only when enemies escalate to lethal intent does the license to kill phase activate, unlocking Bond's expert marksmanship and turning the combat into something genuinely dangerous and kinetic. It is a decision that reinforces the identity of the game. This is a spy game first and a shooter when it absolutely has to be. Something worth understanding about what IO Interactive actually built here. This version of Bond speaks more than any Bond has in the films, because in a game you control him through every stealth section, every dialogue exchange, every moment of quiet between the action. He has to be a character you can spend 20 or 30 hours with and still find compelling, not just an icon you are borrowing, a person. The creative team made a deliberate choice early in development. Bond would have self-assurance without arrogance, romantic interest without it being predatory, and a part of himself that he keeps carefully hidden from everyone around him. M, Q, and Moneypenny are all present in the game, reimagined for this younger timeline, with new actors and new dynamics built specifically around a Bond who has not yet earned their full trust. And the theme song, written and performed by Lana Del Rey, was described by people who have heard it as completely in the spirit of the classic Bond songs, while sounding exactly like nobody else could have made it. Every preview that came out of the late April 2026 sessions covered roughly 3 to 3.5 hours across 3 missions. The general takeaway was consistent across outlets. The stealth is smart, the gadgets are fun, the sandbox design holds up, and the character work around Bond is stronger than most people expected. The concern a couple of journalists raised was around whether the game could sustain that quality across its full length, which is a reasonable question about any 20 or 30-hour game. But the foundation that IO Interactive built here is undeniably solid. The Hitman series earned its reputation slowly over multiple seasons by delivering on exactly what it promised: dense, replayable, creative sandboxes that rewarded attention and experimentation. If 007 First Light does the same thing inside a Bond story, it will be one of the more satisfying games of 2026. Bond has been absent from games for 14 years. The studio that brought him back is the only one that really understands how to build a world around a single character who has to be worth following through every room, every mission, and every decision without the films doing the work for you. 007 First Light is not trying to give you the Bond you already know. It is trying to show you where he came from and why becoming that person cost exactly as much as it did. Subscribe to Playnetarium. We will be covering the story, the missions, the choices, and everything worth unpacking when First Light releases.